We're
There you
done.
go, it's on.
We need to approve the minutes. Actually, I sent out both minutes, the 5th and the 19th.
Did everyone get a chance to look at them?
The other minutes went out a while ago, the 5th. I don't remember if I sent those
I
out.
saw them wrong.
I move to accept the minutes of the 5th as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now for the 19th.
I move to accept the minutes of the 19th as written.
Second,
Second.
any discussion, additions, corrections? Okay, we're good.
Did we vote to approve them?
You should vote now.
I vote aye.
All in favor on everything?
Aye.
All right. Now, deliberations on applications received. Did everybody get a chance to read town council's
Yes.
comments?
No.
There was one slight controversy, which we'll have to talk about, as to whether the Historic Commission and Town Council did not agree on one of the submissions, so we'll have to work that out. But otherwise, Linda, you always have a way you want me to do this, so.
Depending. If we take each section,
Okay, do we want to start with affordable housing, because that's on the top, it begins with A?
okay.
Okay. All right, so for affordable house, we have the Affordable Housing Trust. Well, first we have the admin fee, which is $10,000. That's a really simple one. Shall we go ahead and vote for that?
Make a motion to accept the admin fee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any members on
Who's it going to?
Zoom? Do we have any?
I'm sorry?
Who's the money going to?
No.
Oh, it just goes into our special account and we can allocate
It's
it.
our admin.
The admin, yes, that's our
Okay, 'cause it
money,
didn't-
and we have to pay Erica out of it, so.
And in the past, you've used it to pay like the Norman Rockwell.
Yes, that's why I was looking for somebody to give it to.
Our dues.
Haven't decided.
Our dues to
Or
the,
the dues and all of that.
Yeah, dues for
Okay.
the,
And the advantage is during the year, we can spend it at our discretion.
Yes.
all right, so next is the affordable
You
housing.
didn't vote.
What do you mean I didn't vote?
Did you vote?
Yes,
Okay.
we voted. Affordable Housing Trust. We had a request for $225,000. Discussion?
Are the applicants coming up or how are we doing this?
That we discuss, they can, if we have questions, and there are people here, Liz is here to answer any questions we might have. And normally, we don't have a presentation, we just normally
Right.
discuss.
I have a lot of
Okay.
comments on.
Okay, and-
Do you want the comments before you?
I would like the folks' comments right now.
Okay. Firstly, we're talking about an amount of money, if I'm not mistaken, to be used for matters at Pine Woods, correct? Right,
Possibly,
possibly. I think we really need to have a defined plan with timeframes as to the types and time and cost of these items to be dealt with. There's also an issue of maintenance versus preventive, maintenance
Preservation.
versus preservation. We don't know which of these items are maintenance or preservation.
There've been a few that have been deemed not appropriate, that we can't do the stoves, for instance.
We're not talking about the construct application.
I know, but
We're talking also about the
General.
issue of legality. Can the town raise a bond on behalf of property it doesn't
We're
own?
not talking about the construct.
I think that's the next project, that can construct Pine Woods. This is just the money that goes into the bank that we established a couple of years ago, thanks to you. And we need to decide whether we want to put that much money in, or do we want to put less money in, or do we have to?
I think we need a definition as to what.
But it won't be, nobody can apply for this fund, this pot, the $225,000. Nobody can apply for that without having a specific project,
Yeah.
which we don't have for this.
But basically, by putting these monies into trust, it reduces available funds for other CPC projects. So, it seems to me, from a logical business standpoint, we need to define what we want to do before we commit funds to do it.
Right.
So when we, just for clarification, when we last year, when we committed an equal amount to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right.
There was no definition specifically on how it would be spent. So what you're suggesting, Jay, as I understand it, is we shouldn't just repeat what we did
Correct.
last time. This time we need more specificity.
Yes.
Okay.
But it would basically be a fund that could be accessed if a project came up, if a piece of property came up that seemed like it would be suitable to develop affordable housing. So that's going into a pot that's unknown at this point. So in order for somebody to use it, we would have to have a meeting, and we would have to decide whether the
Well, I think
project
that's
was
an
worthy.
important distinction.
Yes.
I mean, as I understood it, the first time around, it was going to be up to the Affordable Housing Trust to make the determination.
We can't spend the money without having something specific in front of us.
Okay, so
Right, yeah.
what you're
So
saying
even
is
if it goes
both the
into a-
previous money
Right, yes.
and this money just goes into a allocated trust,
Yes,
and it would need the specific approval of this committee
yes,
in order for there to be any expenditures.
right.
That's not true with the prior money.
That's not
Sorry?
true. It's what?
That's not true with the prior money.
Well, I just asked for that clarification, and Sally said it
I
was
think
true.
it is, because I don't think any CPA money can be spent without
Right.
our having.
Money in the current CPA, money in the current Affordable Housing Trust can be used on any CPA allowable project that is related to affordable housing in the town of Stockbridge.
Right,
Right, but
it
it
still
needs,
needs
what
to,
Sally is saying, before it's spent, this committee has
we
to
have to,
approve
we
it.
have to approve
Correct.
it.
The town, town meeting approved $225,000 so far for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Yes.
And if you read the warrant of what the town meeting approved, it is for projects related to the affordable housing. So that is up to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to disperse. There's no further requirement to come before this body. Now, this body can designate that in the future, if it wants to only fund specific types of projects, which by the way, I think is a good idea, that's all that it wants to do. But in terms of money that's already appropriated, that money is in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to disperse. And the warrant was quite general, and it was approved at town meeting. It has nothing to do with this committee at this point.
But it has to, bills have to be submitted and approved.
But they'd be submitted and approved by affordable
Erica,
housing.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the money's already been transferred into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. There's no bills to be approved now. well, legally, we can't do anything that would violate the terms of the CPC. But the Affordable Housing Trust is its own separate entity. It is not like doing 10,000 for a roof repair.
Okay, that was.
I think we should get
We
clarification.
have gotten
said
clarification.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
I second what Jay just suggested, that we need clarification for both the last allocation and this allocation.
Okay, the money,
There's no clarification for the last application. It's gone.
No, but there's a difference of opinion on how that can be spent, Carol.
Yeah. But
Jay is saying one thing, Sally is agreeing with Jay, and Patrick is saying another thing. And rather than arguing about it here, I think we need clarification.
Okay, I think we need.
so we're going to adjourn the meeting because I don't see how we act on $900,000 worth of requests without having clarification as
We
to whether
don't
we get
adjourn
started.
it, we put it off till next week.
We have a
have
background
another
meeting on the
meeting scheduled
6th.
next week.
We can deal with that.
Can we focus on rather the mechanics, the merits for a moment? Okay, so first of all, I basically agree with Jay. I think that we do need much more clarification and guidance from the folks at Construct to guide the decisions that we make. It's my understanding from independent reviews, Pinewoods may be looking at anywhere from a couple of million to $4 or $5 million in repairs necessary. I don't think we have a plan yet on the table as to how we ensure that our money not only can ensure the sustainability of Pinewoods, but also can be leveraged to ensure that all of the money that Pinewoods needs is funded. I think that Randy included in the proposal a review of some of the engineering challenges and needs at Pinewoods. And I believe that our best strategy involves working with Construct to get together a plan so that we can go to the state and get the entire batch of funding that's necessary to ensure the long-term viability of the development. And in doing so, make sure that our money allows us to then get a much larger amount of money from state and federal partners. Okay, so the reason why I made the point on the 225 is that we can use the money that you've already given us, well, give is the wrong word, that the town already appropriated. We can use that money to work with Pinewoods to do two things, all right? One, triage, because some things may come up in the next year, and it's great that we're able to write a check with 5 votes anytime we have a meeting if there's like literally a leak in the roof. But the other, I think, more important role is planning, is ensuring that the engineering and legal work to prepare us to go to our state and federal partners is done. And I believe that the 225 that we've already got is available to do those two things. One, triage, and two, help Construct with funding the larger information and preparing of engineering that's going to be necessary to have a long-term plan. My fear on both 225 to fix a couple boilers and 750,000 to fix a whole bunch of stuff is we still don't know what the scale of fix is and whether or not all those projects are fundable or how we're going to fund them. And I really think we need to spend the next year working with Construct to understand those in detail so we can come up with a comprehensive plan rather than piecemeal it. Where, where we don't know what the scale of the problem is even yet. So my suggestion would be, it's my understanding we have something like $900,000 in available. My suggestion would be that rather than fund these projects, we fund some percentage in the designated housing bucket, similar to what we may talk about for open space. And we simply allow the process to work its way out with the 225 that we already have.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
All right. And that is a plan I've talked with Michael about. That's a plan I've talked to Don about. And I think that that's the most reasonable way to safeguard the taxpayers' money, while at the same token, providing the support we need to get the entire job done, not to put a Band-Aid on it.
If I might add, one point, those monies could be used to hire an independent consultant.
That's the whole point.
To develop the plan.
Exactly.
That's
right.
That's exactly what I'm talking
So
about.
that we know independently where are the priorities, okay? What has to be done? And then we start talking about the actual enforce project.
Patrick, to be clear here, we're talking about three separate things as I see it, and they all relate to Pine Woods. One is the existing money that we approved last year. The second is the request for this year for another 225. And the third is authorization for the bonding of a much larger amount, right?
Well, I'm not talking about the second or third. I'm only talking about the first.
Right, just the first.
Okay, but is your opinion that they're all related, that we need to be discussing all three items
No.
today?
I don't think we are anywhere near ready to discuss items 2 and 3. I don't think we are. I think we have to have a
So are you
plan.
gotta get the
saying that this application is off the table today?
Okay.
Just to be clear, so.
But I am advocating, however, that because we have, due to Michael and Erica and others, work to really understand the breadth of what we have available to us, which is more, about twice this year than we're gonna have in a normal year. I think it's important, if we're going to take these two off the table, that we designate some money into housing so that in the future, this body can determine, based on what a plan is, what an appropriate use for that housing resource is. And so I don't know what that number is yet, because we haven't worked out all the other applicants we have in front of us. But I would like it at some point in this meeting to come back to the idea of designating some of that 900,000 in undesignated funds that's available to us into the housing bucket, so that we can, in the future, have resources available to fix what is going to be a problem at scale. We know that we are going to have to solve these problems. We just don't know how to solve them yet.
We want to table this then? Table it?
Yeah.
For now? Okay, we'll table it for now.
Okay, but are you asking us to go beyond that and put something in the bucket?
We're going to table it until we know what kind of, we've got a lot of applications in front of us. And I think we need to, see before we say X amount, we've got housing proposals from the Stockbridge Housing Authority and from Riverbrook.
Right.
I'm not sure what, I think that my personal opinion this year is we've got some money we're probably going to want to leave in undesignated, and of the balance, we should roughly split it between the three buckets. That's just my personal opinion. So, but until we know what that is, I don't know where it is.
We also shouldn't lose sight of the fact that there are monies in the pot right now that could be used for plan development, okay?
Oh, absolutely. We're
Okay.
on the short term also.
Even before we get to additional monies.
Yeah.
We got to have a plan, and there are funds available. Somebody's got to tell us what the plan's going to do, when, and what the ultimate cost is going to be.
And that's why I like the undesignated bucket for housing. We put something in there once we have a plan, then this body
So,
can figure
We
it
need the
out.
plan first.
Is it the agreement of this group, this committee, that we're going to get a definitive answer from town council before next week, that what the money that's already been allocated, whether that expenditures can be made by that decision can be made by the Affordable Housing Trust, or whether we have to approve?
You can ask if you'd like. The money is already in the Affordable Housing Trust. It's an
We
independent
know it's
trust.
there,
gone
but what
You don't have to yell.
we're not completely agreed on is whether or not there needs to be specificity in order for this body to approve it.
So then, in other words, there's no Affordable Housing Trust. There's just a CPC, and every single time the Affordable Housing Trust wants to do something, it comes to
I think
CPC.
his
It makes
point
no
is well
sense.
taken.
Well, it may not make sense, but we need clarifications because this appears to be.
Yeah, because that was not my understanding, that that's what was going to happen.
Let's clarify that.
But is that your understanding to give it to Northern Rockwell Museum, for
We
example?
can't, no, because whatever it is, it's
No,
affordable
no.
housing.
No, What I'm saying is, why should the Affordable Housing Trust be different from
Yeah, that's
Gould
my,
Meadows?
my thinking.
Or Norman
How did we
Rockwell
how did we lose control of that is what I'm wondering.
by the Affordable Trust being put in place?
Many towns just take their third they put into housing and they just give it to the Affordable Housing Trust. It's kind of a standard way. That's what Stuart said. It's a standard way that these things work. And I point out to you that simply the money is already in the
We know
Affordable Housing
that.
Trust.
Yeah,
I would make a motion that council be
We don't need a motion, Jay.
consulted,
We'll get the answer.
Go ahead, make.
could be consulted as to the use of the existing monies in the trust with respect to plan development.
I second the motion.
I don't understand.
okay, so we have Jay, we have Tom, and any additional discussion, comments,
Okay.
vote?
I had something to say, but it's not relevant to the motion, so
Okay,
I'll wait.
so, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right. we'll
I
talk to town
abstained
council.
because I didn't understand it. I'm not opposed to it, I just didn't get it. Okay,
Okay.
I
so-
just, may I say?
Yes,
Okay. I would like to say this. First of all, I really like and respect what Patrick said because I always thought, and this is just another thing that we think that maybe we have to ask somebody, but I always thought it was best if any entity to which we give money spends that money before they ask for more. Now, I'm just putting that out there. And this is a plan that would do that. Then the Housing Trust would be engaging and spending this money, coming back to us, telling us how they spent it, just like any other recipient does. You know, secondly, I would like to say that I really think that it's very, very good. And I think Jay said this, and I think Patrick said this, and maybe Tom did too, that we know what we're doing before we do it. And to use that, is it 225,000 they have so far? Or is it 250?
it's 225.
225. That we spend that 225 to really find out what we're doing. Jay's idea of getting an expert in there is laudable. Patrick is fantastic with being the overseer of the taxpayers' money. You know, all this money originates with the taxpayers and, you know, spending it in a wise way. And it just
It's
repeats.
fiduciary responsibility
It's
of this committee to the town, the taxpayers.
And to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Correct.
Right, okay, thank you, Jay. And I just think that's so terrific. And then they'll come back to us and they'll tell us the next thing. And by then we'll have Tom's answer. So we'll know just what we're doing. And Pine Woods and Heaton Court and River Brook are very, very important to this town.
Absolutely.
Okay, and even though they're separate entities, just like the Affordable Housing Trust is a separate entity, it's still very important to the running of this town. I don't know if any of that was still relevant, but I got it all out.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, so,
Right?
yes.
so the next is the project that would be a request for bonding at $50,000 a year, basically, in expense. But Patrick, you're suggesting that we're not ready to even consider that.
And so,
Is that?
respect,
That's just construct Pine Woods 50,000.
yeah, it's just responsible, that's what that is.
So we'll table that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have a request from the Penrose LLC to help with affordable workforce housing in the town of Lenox. Town council said it was allowable.
Really?
I personally think it would be a hard sell to the town.
Yeah.
Especially since we're wrestling with what we need to do for our own affordable housing. And I understand that if people can afford to live in Lenox, that they could afford to work in Stockbridge. I get that it, is a benefit to the community in general. But I just have a feeling it would be a hard sell to town meeting. What does anybody else think?
I agree.
I put in a call to Stuart Saginaw to see what kind of precedents there are around the Commonwealth
It's allowable, according to town council,
it's allowable, but my question is.
and has been done.
Do you know where? Did she say? I didn't have a chance to.
I don't know if she said or not.
Yeah, this is Charlie Adams from Penrose. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, we can.
Oh, that's who that is.
I'm happy to offer some commentary on that if people are, if you'd let me, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you all for doing that. There's also an update that we have for you, which I think will be pretty, should be helpful to this conversation. So this is actually a strategy that's been used several times very successfully, particularly on the Cape. And the Cape, we've done it on 2 of our deals, and I know other projects on the Cape are doing it, going to other towns. And it's really, because they see housing as a regional issue, that the affordable housing doesn't stop at the town lines. And for the two deals that we've done, that we are doing or have done on the Cape, in Eastham, we were able to, the town of Wellfleet and the town of Orleans both supported our project that we did in Eastham, which was 65 units, same there as it's here. And then recently we're headed to closing on a project in Orleans, the Cape Cod 5 Operations Center. And there we've raised, over 2.6 million of CPC funds coming from 7 different towns that have all contributed there. So I know it's something that the state actually looks on very favorably. It's gotten a lot of attention when other communities have donated to those projects. And it's something the state really likes to see. One of the things we've been working on with the state, the question about preferences, and we don't have a complete final answer, but we are pretty confident or feel pretty good about the fact that the state would actually be willing for towns like yourselves, if you are able to contribute, that there would be what we call, you're allowed to do a preference for, as you probably are aware, for other projects, usually for the residents of that community for the first year. And what we've been talking with DHCD or the state about is perhaps looking at an opportunity to have some of the local communities like yourselves have a 10% preference for the units. So if Stockbridge and other communities, and we are going to other communities besides yourselves, to look for these funds, that we're working with the state to try to get a preference for residents of Stockbridge or people that work in Stockbridge, that they'd have a preference to go to the top of a list when the lottery is done for the first year for the units at this development. So that's the thing that, might be of, that where it actually does help the residents of Stockbridge. And it's not just supporting a local community for the region. It's actually, there actually would be some benefit to the residents of Stockbridge.
What happens after the first year?
You go to a wait list, and that's standard whether it's in the town or not. So it's a fair housing issue that we can't get around. So when you do it within the town, it's for first year only. But what happens is that when you do these developments, you do it by lottery. And so when it comes time to lease up the units, our management company would advertise. We would collect the names, and folks that were in Stockbridge, there'd be the first sort of 10% of the units. If folks are from Stockbridge, they would get up to the top of that wait list for that first year. And then there's a standard wait list after that.
Right. And just to put in perspective, at Heaton Court, the wait list is 1,500 people. So if someone were to need to downsize and they were income qualified, they might be able to get into Brushwood Farms at the top of a list. And I think the other benefit, Charlie, here's the more pressing question here. It's my understanding, and Charlie and I have had this conversation, so it's a leading question. It's my understanding that the leadership at the State House, as well as DHCD, is looking very favorably on these sorts of regional projects. Is it your opinion that as we need to go back to the state to deal with some significant issues we have in Stockbridge around funding some of these things, does that at all help us get their attention in a very competitive market for things like tax credits or other
Yeah.
types of funding?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's sort of what I was sort of getting at, right? So in a lot of these, and let me just fill out the story a little bit. Like in a lot of these towns, you can get up to a 70% preference for local residents. So here, what we've been doing would be a 60% preference for Lennox and then 10% for any towns. What's that? What's the opposite? Oh. Oh, okay. So maybe I've got it reversed. But in any event, but yes, so the point is that when Stockbridge, does have their deal that they're trying to accomplish, that, it is looked upon favorably that the town has supported other projects in the region, and these resources are very scarce and hard to come by. So it can be it's an informal benefit to support these other projects regionally.
Does nominal support, I think that it's very unlikely that we only have about $400,000 on a typical year. It's very unlikely that we could support this project in anywhere near the 100,000 you requested. Does a nominal amount, $5,000, $10,000 help us and get us any preferences, or is that just de minimis to you?
I think at that point, one of the things, not to get too much in the weeds, but the way that these deals are structured, that the money that would flow in would actually would not be a grant. Actually, it would actually be, we'd actually work with you to structure as a loan, which would be better for you because otherwise it becomes a tax issue. And then, but if you're doing it, then there are some costs associated with it. So something that's like $5,000, $10,000 is, probably could be eaten up pretty, a good chunk of it by legal fees. So what I would say that if 100,000 is too much, maybe 50 is too much, but one of the things that we're always happy with, and because these projects take a long time, and we even can come, after we've closed, continue to ask for these resources, is that if there's some willingness to give us some money now and we'll come back, next year, we understand there's no promises that you would give it next year. But, that's one way we've worked it with towns where they're trying to spread that money out. And again, we understand there's no promise from you in the future that you would support it, but at least, there would be a way to give us some of your resources now and some for other projects, and you spread it around. And then if you have money next year and we come back, we'd ask again for an allotment, and maybe you'd have it, maybe you wouldn't.
A quick question. What about other abutting towns? Have you asked them for CPA funding?
Yes. We have an application in at Beckett, and
I'm sorry, the application?
and we're submitting one for Pittsfield.
Pittsfield and Beckett. And I think Lee is about to get CPA.
Yes, so Lee is on our list as well. And West Stockbridge. Those are the towns we're looking at.
If I could interject a point, I think Sally originally made the comment that it conceivably would be a difficult sell to our population. And we've talked about affordable housing for Stockbridge. We want to try to jumpstart what we already have. Really, this is a worthy project, believe me. Right. But I think we've got a couple of priorities here. So, maybe we need to look home first before we look beyond Stockbridge.
That's my feeling.
Yeah.
I'd like to say something. Heaton Court has such a long waiting list because anyone, anywhere in the country can put their name on a list. So people put their names on all sorts of lists hoping to get something. I really like this project of 64 units. People, where do Stockbridge workers come from? From Pittsfield, from all over. They're not coming from Stockbridge. And people born in the town who can't live here, I think it's a wonderful project. Might not be in our town, but it's 64 units. That's a huge amount. It looks like a beautiful project, very well planned. And I would definitely go for this over Pinewoods. My opinion.
Could I ask a question of anybody that knows the answer? Mr. Adams, I don't know.
Yes. You can call me Charlie.
Hey, Charlie. Charlie, towns in Massachusetts are required to have a certain percentage of affordable housing. Stockbridge meets that right now. But if we lost any of our extant housing, if things at Pine Woods, for example, were so dire that a certain number of the units were closed or whatever, does our investing in this get us credit for a number of units? And if so, what's the number?
I really wish I could say yes to that, but unfortunately, it won't. They only, the 10% test is only for units that are within the city limits. That's how the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I wish we've asked that question as well, try to give benefit, and it's come back, yeah, no, it doesn't count on your SHI, unfortunately.
Well, I
Okay.
have to say
Thank
that
you.
the fact that it's only relevant for the first year, and I know that there has been some preference at Heaton Court for Stockbridge residents, but the fact that there's such a long waiting list and a good number of the folks who live there are not, have not come out of the Stockbridge community, which I think is extremely unfortunate. I think we need to look to our own backyard. This is my personal opinion. We need to look in our own backyard and build housing in our own backyard for our own people. And yes, it's a great and worthy project, and I'm absolutely in favor of it, but I'm not in favor of us using our limited funds for that. That's my vote.
So a question, in terms of this being a community effort, Charlie, and you've mentioned the other towns that you're hoping to loop into this, and I think I heard you say there's also options for, if it's not this year, maybe next year. Is there thought of sort of, rather than approaching towns piecemeal, to do a joint appeal to the different towns to be considered for the following go-round? Where there's discussion about how we might all benefit from this?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know how, in terms of putting, what your bylaws and things allow for having joint combined meetings, but that sounds like an excellent idea. If the various CPCs wanted to post a combined meeting together and have folks like us come in and make a, one overall pitch to everyone, we certainly would be, happy to do that. If there's a form that could be created. I think I would really turn to you guys to ask, do your bylaws, or I'm probably not using the right word, does your charter, allow you to, can you do that? Can you set up joint meetings?
Well, if this is truly a regional benefit, it seems to me to be worthy of a regional discussion, but I can see there's some reluctance to, decide, okay, we'll jump in at this stage. So it's just a thought.
All right, so do we want to take a vote on this?
Why don't you turn what you said into a motion?
My vote is no, not for us.
We need a motion.
My motion is no, not for us.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion or vote? We have a vote?
Point of order is Ann's a voting member, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Yes,
So we have to do a roll call vote with a voting
Yes.
member on Zoom.
yes, we do.
All right, Carol.
Just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can I offer an amendment to this?
Sure.
motion? The amendment is that we put off the vote till next week, when we're meeting a week from tonight, and see if Charlie is able to get back to us with a suggestion of how towns might consider this together rather than piecemeal.
Charlie has a meeting with Michael and I next week here.
Except
So
we
we'll
don't-
have more information next week, but I don't think that's relevant.
We don't have a proposal if they do that.
Right.
In other words, we'd have to come back.
We have to vote on this
And,
one anyway.
Yeah, we have to vote on this one. What they've submitted at this
Right,
point.
what's before us.
Are you taking a roll call?
I am. Carol?
Which way do I vote if we're not funding it? Aye
You
or
vote
nay?
No.
I vote no?
I think just keep the motion simple, yeah.
I vote, I just say yes or no. No, you don't want it. Yes, you do want it. Okay? Let's do it that way.
Carol Owens, no, I don't want it.
Okay, Tom?
I'll vote no.
Patrick?
No.
No, so.
Okay. Linda?
No.
Gary, no.
Anne?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. We will not fund it out of this year's budget. But we certainly are interested in hearing something for another year, Charlie. So if you can come to us with some kind of regional plan, well, I think we would be interested in hearing about that.
Okay, thank you.
And also if, I think that there would be a member of the committee, maybe Ann in particular, who would be interested in serving if there's some regional CPA. I'm not sure how it would go, but.
Just a quick question to Ann. Would you be willing to serve in that capacity, Ann?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So please do make note of that, Charlie.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Riverbrook, 50,000, their fire escape. So this is another one that town council said was allowable. It's part of our affordable housing bank, Riverbrook.
Yeah.
And it also serves a community of women who are disabled. And I think they've been doing a wonderful job over the years of serving that community and providing that resource for the town.
Yep, all of the above.
So do I have discussion on this?
I'd second that.
I would like to say something. This is to renovate an existing fire escape. Correct?
Yes.
So
Yes, sure.
there is a fire escape.
All right, let me see what the,
There is an existing wood fire escape, which is
Inadequate.
basically slippery and horrible in the winter. It doesn't meet code. We will put up a steel staircase which will last in perpetuity for our great grandchildren to run on.
and can you hear Pam?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Pam, can you give your full name too? I know it is, but for the,
My name is Pam Sandler. I'm actually the architect of this project. I've worked on Riverbrook with all my heart for over 20 years. And the stair is treacherous. It's existed and everything about it doesn't meet code and is illegal. They asked me to come, and design a staircase that there'll be great, so snow won't be able to sit on it, and it is one of the only emergency ways to get out of the second floor.
it's a wood structure.
And it's a wood structure.
So you're not repairing, it's not repair, it's not maintenance, it is replacing with a new.
Exactly.
Okay, good. And did that,
Is it usable as it is now?
is it usable as is? Pam is an architect and she's saying no.
Contradiction in terms.
I mean, it's usable until somebody really gets hurt on it, and then we're really in trouble, which could happen at any moment. So.
Well, I could, let me turn this on.
I mean, they've been using it all this time, so.
So my point is, what I'm getting at is, it's an existing usable fire escape 50,000 to renovate it. I would much rather give 100,000 to a 64-unit affordable housing project than 50,000 to a fire escape that is still usable.
Well, it's
So
only-
if I could speak up, my name is Rebecca Musa-Wendell. I'm the executive director at Riverbrook Residence. The fire escape is usable for the time being. The wood is starting to splinter and it won't be usable soon. So we're trying to be proactive in replacing it. Particularly during the winter months, is it a problem? So while we're not a 65-person unit, we have been serving the Stockbridge community and providing affordable housing since 1957. And I do feel like Riverbrook is eligible for these funds.
Rebecca, do you believe you could come up with, out of the roughly $70,000 cost, if the CPC did like 50% of it? We've got a lot of applications this year. Do you believe you could come up with the balance?
Yes, I do.
All right, I make a motion,
And
we
do
fund this at
additional
35,000.
fundraising.
35.
Where, the 18,400, where is that from? That you've already,
That is from additional fundraising.
There's a motion on the table. Make a motion, we fund it at 35,000.
well, I'd like to hold off on the motion, just ask a few questions if I
But
could.
you can ask questions after it's seconded. That's the whole idea.
I will second it.
All right.
Okay,
So you say that other 18,000 is from other sources, basically.
Correct.
Well, I just want to say that I think that Riverbrook is really quite exemplary in how much the women who live at Riverbrook are part of the town and in many ways model citizens.
Yes.
And engaged in the community. And to me, being supportive of Riverbrook is very consistent with our mission, and it's something that taxpayers should be pleased to be supporting. So that's all I really want to say. And it seems like a reasonable request.
all right, we have a motion to revise the number that they're asking for to $35,000. And that's been seconded. Shall we take a vote on that revision? So, yes, you want the revision. No, you'd rather go for the 50.
Oh, Carol Owens, no.
Wait,
Right.
Serious.
Well, I don't know which way.
So you're saying you're voting against the revision?
all right.
I'm voting
I can
against.
withdraw the motion if someone wants to have a discussion on the amount.
Let's say,
Okay.
So if we're not ready to decide,
35 or 50, just to make my life easy.
the
Carol,
applicant just indicated that they could
do it.
They could do
Do
it.
it for 35.
And frankly, we've got 1.3 million in requests.
Yes.
So my sense is that we might want to.
Rebecca,
35,000.
No, overall, I think that we've got many more requests than we're
I
going to be able to
think we're
fund.
talking about this bucket right now,
okay,
and I think it should be funded.
Yeah.
okay. Rebecca,
Carol, 35 or 50?
50.
Tom,
Well, this is not a yes or no vote, it's 45 or,
35.
that's where we're at for the motion at
That's what
this
the
point,
chair
to
said.
change the amount to, so it just makes my life easier for the semantics of yes or no. If you would rather fulfill the whole $50,000 request, then you'll say 50. If you are okay with 35, let's see where we end up here.
well, I'm not happy with the vote because I'd be okay with, I know this is splitting hairs, but I would like to give at least 40.
Now, come on, Tom.
We can vote again. Let's vote on 35 or 50 now, okay? And then if that doesn't work out, let's go back to it.
If what?
Let's vote on 35 or 50 now.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work out, like we're tied or something, or, then we'll go back and see if anybody wants to just revise it to 40. Or we could have another motion to amend to 40.
That's what I'd like to do, is amend it to 40, but if I have to vote one or the other, I'm going to vote for 50.
Okay, so do we want to amend, do we want to have an amendment?
I withdraw my motion. This is called a straw poll. Let's do a straw poll on the amount and then we'll have a motion on the amount.
Right.
All right, so the motion is withdrawn. So let's finish the straw poll because I want to address it. Okay, when we start fully funding things, we benefit the ones at the top of the list to the detriment of the ones at the bottom of the list. So if we want to basically review all the numbers at the end when we're 300,000 or 400,000 over, which we will be, then that's fine. But I think that it's important that we not necessarily, the applicant, let me finish. The applicant indicated she could get the job done with 35,000. And I think our job is to try to accommodate as many of these applicants as possible. So
I think our
35,000.
job is to be selective, and I think some applications get rejected and some get funded in full. And to me, this is a very favorable. So in the interest of compromising, I'd go down to 40, but no lower.
So far we've eliminated the Affordable Housing Trust, the 50,000 to Pinewoods and the 100,000 to Penrose. So we've coming down.
Tabled the first two. We didn't eliminate them.
So Riverbrook. I am not really sure where to go with this.
I defer to the chair. Make a motion for whatever you think is the right amount, and I'm okay with it. Or finish the straw poll and ask the rest of the members what their amounts are.
So, all right, so Carol wants to go to 50. Tom would like to go to 50.
But not as much as
Patrick.
I'd like to go to 40.
Patrick,
35. 50.
Linda? Gary?
Yeah.
So now I'll make a motion that we fund it at 50. Jump on the bandwagon.
And I would go for 50.
And I will go
Come on,
for
Dick River.
35.
Okay, and 35. So the motion carries.
All right.
Carries to go for the full 50 for Riverbrook.
We have the motion actually has to be approved by roll call.
Right. So the motion before us is that we are going to recommend to town meeting that we allocate $50,000 to Riverbrook to fix their falling down fire escape. Carol,
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Patrick.
Aye.
Aye, Linda.
I hear it.
and,
Abstain.
okay,
All right.
and I vote yes.
Did she approve?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Stockbridge Housing Authority, $67,529 to replace the last round of the siding.
Oh, gosh, yeah, the sun.
Do I have discussion?
What is, this is the 67, is that the Heaton Court?
Yes, Heaton Court.
This is the one that we funded for like 3 years, so we have to fix all of it.
Second that.
Yeah.
They are funded through state grants and it's based on the number of units that they have, that they get money. And if they don't get that money, then they don't have it. So it's extremely difficult to get additional money with the procedures that are in place. So when they're desperate for something extra, it's good for,
Sally,
yes.
Sally, are we voting on 24 or 22, 23? Because I see for 24, it says 20,000. And the 67,000 is for 22, 23 on the sheet I have.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm looking at their request, which was for 67,529 for fiscal year.
That's what we did last year.
That's last year.
That's what we
That's
did
last
Where
year.
did I get that number?
Yeah, that's just a mistake. We're only voting on the 20.
Is
oh,
that right? I'm
good.
sorry. Okay.
Is that correct?
Well,
Is Andrea here?
There are two requests. There's one
One
for
is-
15 and
One is
another for
15 and
20.
What was I
Oh,
looking
okay.
at? I wonder.
I'm on housing, but I don't know. But it says
Yeah.
24.
You're right.
Look at this, see, why is this like this?
There's just a typo. The 67,529 should be 20
Okay.
on our sheet.
Well, that's good.
Well, then what's this?
I don't know.
All right.
Oh, I see. Okay, you're right, Ann. I'm sorry. I misread that.
Thank you, Ann.
So this is correct that we're voting on the 20,000 for this year? And
I don't know, but it just looks like it from the sheet, but I don't know the figure.
Well, everyone else is saying it's 20,
okay.
the letters of support.
All right, so let's put the figure 20 in there.
So I see that you're replacing the wood siding with cement board,
Yes,
and that's what you've been doing right along?
right,
Fireproof,
Pardon?
fireproof.
right.
It's a green product, and it has a 50-year life guarantee. The paint holds it much better than any wood siding, and it will not tear through. It is cement.
And,
I'm not representing them.
but Pam, you say it's a green product? How is it green?
I'm sorry, there is another product called Boral, which is made of fly ash, which is totally green, but
Okay,
this product will last
okay, thank
many
you.
lifetimes and be less painty too.
And Sally said fireproof.
It's fireproof because it's concrete.
Fireproof. Okay.
Okay. So now that we only have to spend $20,000.
Right, I move we approve $20,000 for Heaton Board.
Is it 20 or 35? We're going to do both of them or?
We'll just do the first one now.
All right.
We're lucky we understand the first one.
Okay, so, all right, so we have a motion to approve the $20,000. Carol?
Yes, so I moved. So
Tom?
moved.
Yes,
Hi, Patrick.
Yes.
Jay? Linda? Ann?
Yes,
Okay, so unanimous.
Okay, unanimous.
Stockbridge Housing Authority, work on the driveways and walkways, which are deteriorating, $15,000.
and where are the other 20,000 coming from?
What do you mean?
are you asking me?
Whoever, yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. I don't know.
It's, it's total cost
Does it say?
35 and CPA request
It says
15.
HIAPP,
It says formula funding and or HILAF,
right.
but
So they have
I
formula
don't know.
Yeah.
based on the number of units that they have.
So for every, in our dollars, they can get 250 for every dollar we put in. I make a motion to
That's what
approve.
thank you, I see that. yeah.
I second the motion.
All right. All right, Carol,
Hi, Carol.
Yes,
You have to say
Tom?
Tom.
Hi, Patrick.
Yes.
Jay, Linda,
Aye.
Gary, Ann?
Yes,
Okay, unanimous.
It's 15,000?
All right, yes. All right, Berkshire Theater Group. Linda,
Starting historic preservation here?
yes.
Okay. Let me shift gears.
So we have comments from town council
We also have comments from.
and historic. And one of the consistent comments from town council throughout the historic preservation is the Anti-Aid Act. So we need to be careful that we are not funding we're not funding a private institution which does not have adequate or acceptable community as a community resource. So, is there somebody from Berkshire Theater here? No? Because there was some question about, do I remember somebody telling us that they have a free to Stockbridge or not?
No.
Norman Rockwell does, the
Yes.
theater doesn't.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Does the Berkshire Theater Festival have a free to Stockbridge day or provision?
I don't think so.
I don't think there's any of that.
So that's a problem.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a problem. And I know that this has come up before, that they are not a public, open to the public institution necessarily.
Right, but the public benefit can be the historic preservation restriction itself, or public benefit could be give us some free tickets for the public. It doesn't have to be both. So I think in this case, I think what town council is saying is that if we're going to fund projects like this where there's no free aspect for the public, that we need to get a historic preservation restriction because it is in that historic preservation that the benefit accrues.
Linda, is this in the historic district? Or is it too far
The
down?
reason they can apply, it's on the National Register.
It is.
Main Street Historic District.
Right.
There aren't any projects that we
Yeah.
considered. That's our first criteria through the act. The two questions we had were, the first thing is, no numbering on the page, but the third piece of their application. This is not an unrestricted capital grant, which is what they're calling it. This can only be used for the project they apply for. And the roofing project was something of a question for us because they spent a whole lot of time talking about how shingles, asphalt type came in the mid 1800s, but the picture they sent pretty much shows that it's cedar, and it is cedar on the walls, the siding. So is this a restoration or rehabilitation?
Right.
And you've all read this in these comments from our town council. They're very interested to go one way or the other because one might be considered maintenance. So are we going back to 1928? Or are we doing what we want to do?
Yeah.
There's no master plan presented to us
So
with priorities.
you're questioning whether this is in fact a restoration.
Is it a restoration or
Or maintenance.
rehabilitation? Not maintenance, but if you look at their words, the state words, the language, and you have this from the town
Yeah,
council. It tells you you've got to pinhole it. I thought it was a problem because it didn't rise to the top of a plan for raising money until 2028, right? That's the anniversary.
And I listened to your meeting, and it seemed to me both you and Peter agreed this can only be rehabilitation. This is not restoration.
That's why I wish we had a representative here today because.
I know, really.
This is a problem. It's going to be a lot of money across time. And
Is there drawings with you there that show where the work is being?
no, I'm just saying, we have a postcard. 19, actually, this is before 1928 because it shows
Oh, no,
the
it's
side street.
before, right.
So it's Church Street, old
Right.
location.
Right, that's
Before Michael
definitely,
Choate said, get it out of here because I want to put the mission house there.
yeah.
MHC or something.
So now that it's a different building, it's now a theater, how is it going to look? Because it's right there on the main street. So I'm just not sure they have a plan. And no one spoke to that.
No, I respect everything.
Some of these other projects have a lot of thought in terms of why this is first. So
Pam, I didn't hear your question.
I really was asking if there was.
We got no drawings.
I would help you try to understand what, what the scope of work is, which I've heard shingles, I've heard asphalt, but.
It's unclear.
There's also no budget. We don't have any idea what the overall project cost is.
But the one page that's starts, this application is done by Bradley Architects. And it does not really define, I mean, I think it's a problem.
So,
And I respect you, Doug. I'm sorry, what?
I make a motion that we deny it.
Okay, well,
Can we?
I have a question to Linda.
well, is there a second to the motion?
I'll
I
second.
second it. Oh, okay.
Now we can, yeah.
Question to Linda. Would it be helpful for you if we asked them to, you say you're sorry, there's nobody here tonight, to ask them to, come next week, next Monday, answer some questions?
What if they came and they still don't have a master plan, a master site documents?
So your opinion
Yeah,
is not worth
We have some questions that just aren't answered.
Right.
It's not a very good application given the amount of money they asked for.
So
I feel like,
what's your opinion? We should ask for the specificity or vote no based on what they've submitted?
well, I think the other thing we're going to have to come up against, because in every one of these, they're asking us now to get a preservation restriction from these entities.
Yeah.
And it's not only going to be this, but all others. And so that needs to be sort of put up in front. They don't know that.
Yeah.
So they have fundraising issues. Let's face it, this is a really expensive project.
Yeah.
And it's not unworthy. It's just that the planning seems to be a little short-sighted right now.
Yeah.
And that's why I made the point. It is not unrestricted. It really, really is not a grant for them to do whatever they want. It has to go right to these pieces of.
So, Rich,
I have another stewardship committee meeting right now.
can we
So
address your concerns right now and put that on hold?
it's up to you. I don't want to push.
Yeah, let's.
How much time do you have?
Because I know Arthur has to go too.
Arthur is there too, but at least one of us needs to be there to be a quorum. That's all. That's why I was going to go. But
Well, I think, Rich, your project is pretty important, so let's
it's up to you.
quickly, I move that we hold on this.
Well,
and-
we have a motion to deny from Gary and from Carol, and second with Carol. We need to get that out of the way.
I would like to hear, I'd like to hear Linda's recommendation before I vote.
I feel like waiting another week and having them come in isn't the answer. I think that the big planning piece here is absent.
So you'd recommend a no vote?
I think we just have to say it's not adequate at
Okay.
this time. And
And work with them because it's to their advantage also.
I'm surprised. It's not something I'm
Well-
about to say.
We're gonna have he's got to go, so we should have a vote or just come back to it in 10 minutes.
Let's get past this one and then we'll get to the
Right.
ending.
So Carol.
Carol,
To
no.
deny.
Tom, no.
Patrick, no.
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 Anne?
No,
Okay. All right, Rich.
So Sally, why don't you report on the call that you and I and Rich had a week ago?
But the project is on the table now?
Fen Farm property purchase.
Okay.
Property.
That's a count.
Can you say what that project is, please?
It's the acquisition of the Swan property.
Oh, okay.
I do have a slight update that will help you
Okay.
Yeah?
form your answer. So feel free to,
Oh, go ahead, give us your slight update.
I'll just come up here so they can hear me.
Yeah.
I'm Rich Bradaway from the Stockbridge Land Trust. I'm here representing the Land Trust. I'm working, the Land Trust is working in partnership with Mass Wildlife and Berkshire Natural Resources Council to acquire and protect and conserve the Fen Farm property, which is the swamp property, as you referenced it. It's about 351 acres of land. It represents the northern tip of Monument Mountain and Agawam Lake. It's the first time this property's been on the market in almost 100 years. And the Land Trust, I gave you fairly detailed information about what we're trying to do. The Land Trust is asking for $300,000 to help with the acquisition and protection of that property. The one change that has happened is that we are working, the Land Trust and BNRC is working to potentially subdivide the land so that the Land Trust and BNRC would hold approximately 50 to 60 acres of that land as being freeholders of that land, and the rest would be owned by the state. The 50 to 60 acres that we're talking about represents the upper and lower fields, the woods in between, and some of the peripheral area. While that doesn't represent a majority of the property, it does represent a significant amount of the value of the property because it is the property, part of the property that has frontage. And it also is, it represents the fields, it represents the views, and there are no wetlands on that property. So what I can tell you is that we are structuring it in that way. We have asked the appraiser to come back with what the values of that 50 to 60 acres would be versus what the remaining 300 acres so of wetlands would be for the state. But we are trying to target completing sort of the structure of a deal and presenting it to the owners or the Swans by sometime in March. So this is all kind of a weird time frame because we're applying for this, because of the deadline of the CPC, we're asking for this before the formal proposal and offer is in place. But we are planning to present this offer to the sellers, the Swans. We have had conversations with the Swans. They are committed to conserving the land. We're just trying to narrow the spectrum between what they're asking for and what the appraised value is, which is all within the application that I gave you. So what I can tell you is that at the end of the day, the Land Trust and BNRC would be holding some portion of the land, which would then have a CR on it, which would satisfy the needs of the grant application or what the funding requirement would be. So
I think the town has to hold the CR if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
So as I understood it, if it was all one unit, the town would have to own a CR for the whole unit. The problem with that is with the CR, the appraised value goes way down and there's just not enough. And by law, the state can't pay more than the appraised value.
of course,
So by dividing it, we're going to have a CR on a portion of the property, not the whole. So that presumably that will be worth something, which the town will own.
correct.
And then the rest of the land will be unencumbered. But given that it's being bought by the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, whose mission it is to preserve the land, the CR becomes less of a necessity. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How, you said divided into 3 pieces?
2.
Just 2?
2. So
What happens to BNRC?
So BNRC, because the amount that we're asking for from the town wouldn't represent the full value of what the Land Trust and the BNRC would need to purchase our portion of the land, we would be co-holders of that property.
So the 50 to 60 acres you're co-holders of?
Correct, of the fee.
With the
But we would
CR.
own the CR, and that's,
Mass Wildlife will not deal with a CR.
yeah.
So so it would not have been possible for us to contribute to it if Mass Wildlife were the ones to take it. And
Right.
plus, we would have to know what the appraised value is
So the appraised value of the total property as it is right now.
Right, that we have.
is 2.2 million, but we are working with the appraiser to now get the revised appraisal of both the segments.
And Peter Milanese is on board with this plan.
He indicated that if we came to him with a solid proposal, he would be okay with that because the majority of the land that they would be getting is the land that they're looking to protect, which is contiguous with the existing properties that they're working on.
So,
Yeah.
all right, so, and in this scenario, there would be no easement for the tribe on 300 of the 350 acres. Is that correct?
So they would not, so by virtue of being state land, it is public land. And so anyone who's a member of the public, which would include a member of the tribe, could go onto that land, but they would not have the same, they would basically have to go through the same special permitting process that is required for any state land. By having cultural easements in a CR, we can add some additional accommodations that makes it a little bit easier for the tribe to do things such as historical research or other types of things that we have yet to define yet in the CR. That's all to be defined.
And is the property that they're interested in part of the 50 to 60 acres, or is it not?
It is part of the land that the town would be working on, or acquiring, or helping to fund.
The town has a backup option, which is through the Municipal Vulnerabilities Program. We're being encouraged to provide a joint application with the Stockbridge Muncie Band of Mohicans for $3 million from the state, where the town would fund a couple $100,000 either through CPC or through town funds, and that would provide a cultural easement on the entire property. It's not an either or, but that application is due at the beginning of April. And at some point in the next couple of weeks, the select board will decide whether to apply through the MVP with the tribe to acquire the entire parcel on behalf of the town and the tribe. So I think it makes a lot of sense to keep all options open here, because it could be that this solution is the best solution. However, I'm not convinced that subdividing the land or only doing a cultural easement on a portion of the land is in the best interest of the town.
Okay, so.
If I just add one little caveat to this. So at the present time, for that piece of property, 351 acres, the state has the first right of offer and refusal by virtue of the purchase that they had on Agawam Lake back in the mid-90s. So there's going to be some mechanics there with respect to how that will all happen. But what I can tell you is that the sellers, the Swans, are looking to sell. And if there is a solution that provides them with even a portion of monies up front, rather than waiting for the funding to come through, they would be more inclined to support that offer than one that would possibly see the monies coming in, say, July, probably more like September. In the solution where we subdivide, because monies are coming, we're still working through the legality of this, but because the land trust and PNRC would be bringing private funding support to that transaction, that could potentially be used as an option to secure the land with the sellers. The sellers have already been showing the property to developers and to single families to acquire that land. So we're just looking at the timing and trying to avoid a situation where the sellers are looking to be more in favor to get money up front.
Doesn't this town also have a right of first refusal via the Chapter 61?
They do, provided that if the land is conserved, all of the land is conserved, or the kids, then that wouldn't necessarily hold true, because that would be preserved, that forestry plan would be preserved.
Right. But just to be clear,
But a
though,
developer coming in saying that we want to put 4 properties on the piece of land, or 8 or whatever, then the town has the first right of refusal to say, no, you can't do that.
But they would also have to pay back taxes on what they.
That's correct.
So Rich has to go, but just quickly, in the interest of keeping all options on the table, I'd like and move that we approve the full 300,000 to be used for the acquisition of a conservation restriction should the need arise.
Before you finish that thought, can we make it up to
Pardon?
300,000?
Okay, up to 300,000. Thank you.
I would be much more comfortable, Tom.
And may I just finish? And
I didn't know you
this
weren't.
is comparable to what we approved a few years ago when the DeSisto property was being sold. And we approved a motion to buy the conservation restriction of the upper back land on the West Stockbridge Ridge, should the need arise. So this is not precedent setting. This is something we've done before. And it would be to reserve that money so it could be available immediately should the need arise. And it doesn't take away from the other options being explored.
I'm not opposed to that. I would rather have us put the 300,000 in the open space bucket so that if the town needs to do a separate deal versus this deal, we can simply have another meeting of the CPC before town meeting and decide which of the two we're going to fund. And that's very different than approving it for one of the other options.
Well, I think the thought was originally that we would set aside $300,000 for this purchase should it become necessary. And if not, it would go into the open space bucket.
Okay, does that meet your?
Wait a minute.
But the thing is
Does
that
purchase mean what Brad said? Or does it mean what Rich said? Oh, Rich.
Sorry, Arthur.
That's okay.
Does it mean,
We'll get to it, Arthur, don't worry.
What you were saying, sorry.
Thanks, Arthur.
What was your question?
that's okay, at my age, I might have forgotten it. Which way gives us latitude regardless of which sales agreement comes to fruition?
I think Sally's suggestion gives us that latitude and advice.
So that if Patrick comes forward and says the town's doing this, we still have the money?
In open space, yes.
Or Rich comes forward and says land trust or whatever.
Sally, could you ask who
Now, can somebody mute? We're hearing discussion.
I think it's Ann. You got to mute Ann.
Okay, it's all finished.
Sorry.
Thank you.
What's finished?
Her conversation. So if we allocate up to $300,000 for the purchase of this property,
Regardless of the
That's the
contract.
motion.
yes,
Yes.
up
Yes.
to $300,000. So if we only need 100,000, that's all we have. And then the balance will go into the open space reserve.
Right.
If unneeded, any balance that's unneeded.
Okay,
go into
do
open
we
space
want to
reserve.
restrict it? What if a great housing?
The motion doesn't restrict it.
Comes.
Not restricted, I don't think.
It goes into open space.
It goes into open space.
Okay, why restrict it by putting it in open space, the balance in open
Yes.
space?
Because I think that's the whole purpose of this.
This is focused.
Yeah, but the next thing that comes up may be a housing related.
Well, there are other funds for that.
Yeah,
This is an important piece of land.
yes.
Oh, I know, but she's saying what's not needed.
Well, we need money in the open space.
Yeah, I agree.
Has to happen.
Oh,
I mean, we also have, look at, I think the number one priority of the town should be preserving this parcel.
Absolutely.
I don't think, seriously, of all the priorities on the table here, I think this is the most important one. All right. Having said that, you've got a request for another $100,000 or so in open space projects on the table in here. And we generally get only $400,000 a year. This is an extraordinary year, as we know, but I don't understand why we are potentially not funding other important priorities of the town, albeit less important, but nevertheless, these are all important priorities of the town by simply saying, if we don't need the full 300, we're going to put it forever, lock it forever into the open space bucket. I think it's frankly a little bit irresponsible given the scale of other priorities that the sheet
I
represents.
think once you voted for it in open space, you're stuck with it. I'm pretty sure.
I think so too.
No, because the motion is up to. So the other.
Right.
So the balance is undeclared, and all I'm saying
I'm not
is you
sure
can
that-
put it in a non-designated bucket. It's still, it's
Leave it in
available.
undesignated, and once we know which deal we're going to do, we'll come back and we'll schedule another 5-minute meeting and appropriate the money into the bucket based on the amount that we actually need. But to just take 300,000, because that might be the number, you know, is really limiting.
The number that's being requested.
Right, so we're granting up to that amount.
The number wouldn't be as high in the other scenario, but
That's why we're saying up to.
Up to, that's exactly right. That's
The question
I don't think it's the end of the world.
question is, and I'm not sure what the answer is, once we voted for it to go into an open space project, can it be withdrawn from the open space? And I don't think so.
no, you can't. I mean.
But you're not,
Right.
because you're saying up to.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you were voting for the full amount of $300,000 and it's in open space, you're done. But you're saying up to. And all I'm saying is don't say anything about the balance. Simply say up to.
Yeah, you have to.
All right, so then I have a different suggestion. On Rich's sheet, it says that there's 2.2 to 2.3 million available from other sources. I say then that we grant 200,000 now and leave 100,000 undesignated. And if you come back and say you need 300 after all, we have a 5-minute meeting in April and we move, or March or whenever it is, and we move the other 100,000 in.
I think that's complicated. As you said, this is a top priority. I vote that I'm very strong that we approve the 300. And if it doesn't, it's up to, and there's always money that goes back either to open space or the general fund.
It can't go back to the general fund.
Yeah, it can't.
Sally's concerned it can't go back to the
Okay, well, I think
general
it's
fund.
fine to have it go to open space, and we have other funds available for the other projects, so.
All I can say is. if
I think this,
burns down, you're
this
gonna be
project
sorry.
is critically important. It's time sensitive. The request is reasonable.
All right.
And we should just approve it, period. Not quibble about 200, 100, up
Sally,
to
if-
300.
Sally, if the deal, and I'm hoping it doesn't, if the deal were to fall through before town meeting, so that the money actually hadn't been appropriated into a bucket, then it's not appropriated.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
see,
we're going to know by May anyway. I can support what Tom's saying. We're going to know by May anyway.
Because right now, we only have $6,000 in our undesignated open space reserve, which is really not worth even having.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Kate Fletcher. My understanding is that it's been quite some time since the town has acquired open space and that the CPC has not been, correct me if I'm wrong, putting money into the open space bucket for quite some time as well. So my comment is I would support putting the full $300,000 into the open space bucket. Thank you.
We spent it, Kate. That was why we don't have any.
Can I just,
Yes.
what is this March deadline? You said there was a March deadline?
No, so
I'm not talking about the cultural thing with the Muncie.
No,
I'm
I
talking about the
know.
other-
So we're working towards coming up with a complete deal to present to the sellers in March.
Okay, that's,
And
okay.
the challenge here is that the state has, in my application, I indicate that the state has submitted a request to their lands committee. They will not get information until probably sometime this week. And then by the time we get that information with all the other stuff that we're structuring, it's probably going to happen sometime in March that a formal offer would be placed.
So can you restate your motion?
yeah,
My motion was that we would vote to recommend to town meeting up to $300,000 for the acquisition of the Fen Farm. And if there is any leftover money, that it would go into the open space reserve.
I second.
Should we specify acquisition of a conservation restriction?
No,
No, because,
we may not need one, and
yeah.
we may be owning the parcel, we can't.
The more now. you
Yeah, it
keep
depends
making
on,
this
we can't do it if we don't get a CR.
All right.
How about a time frame?
The deal's gonna be done by May or it's gonna fall apart.
We know that?
Well, yeah, but before town meeting, the deal will be either all set before town meeting or it's gonna go to some
A
private.
CPC funding
Yeah, that's built
cannot be used unless the town has an interest in the property. And if it goes to Mass Wildlife, they will not allow us to do a CR.
We would own it in the second scenario. So
Right.
that would be our interest in the property, we would be the owner.
Or if it gets divided, then we could own part of it. But the town must have the CR in order for us to use CPC money.
Okay. I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Bye, Tom.
Hi, Patrick.
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Okay, so unanimous.
Thank you, Rich.
I'm gonna go to my next.
Thanks. Say hi to Laura.
Okay,
We're gonna go back to, or do we have one to go back to?
Waldorf High School.
I'm gonna
Oh,
recuse
no.
myself from this one. 'Cause pardon me, I'm gonna recuse
Does
myself. from this.
anyone else have to go immediately?
Yeah,
Ron,
Arthur already did, it's the campus.
You're already
talk.
standing
Yeah.
in for, okay.
All right.
Sally, are you going to get to Laurel Hill tonight? If not, I'll go to dinner.
I have no idea, Kate.
Okay, thank you.
As I said, I'm gonna recuse myself from this one. I worked with Marshall High School.
Okay, Berkshire Waldorf High School, the preservation of the old town hall. Town council had comments about that. I think that Teresa, in her presentation, suggested that there are public benefits. And that there are spaces that could be used for the public, for community events. But town council was particularly interested, and I think it's something that we talked about, Teresa, is if, in doing this, that the money would have to go to the historic preservation of the building and not to the construction of like classrooms and that sort of thing. And is that understood?
Yeah.
Right, with the ADA compliance?
Yes,
With the.
yes,
I mean,
and ADA.
Remediation that has to be done just so
right.
we can inhabit the building.
That's
So,
what we specifically asked for, and we actually have a bid from our contractor to make the building accessible. In our proposal, there's nothing about or about his.
Yeah.
There were, there were some issues with that.
What?
Asbestos
Yeah, Linda.
remediation and the lit. And we basically, right now, the building is accessible from the rear with a ramp, but there's no way to get from the first to the second floor, and there's no way to get into the building.
Right, well, that's why it was decommissioned in the first place, because they had town meeting on the second floor, and they couldn't because it was not ADA. Well, they could. Linda?
I just want to bring up a few things in our meeting. First of all, what is the first priority here? In your opening sentence, not backing this up with why this is first, why this is second.
why the remediation is first.
Well, it's first, you weren't clear.
It is first, before they can even start doing anything to the building.
Okay.
That's the first thing that they need to do.
Okay, so that was, okay, you got past that. The next thing was, I was curious, we were all curious, the roof had been redone a number of years ago, 5 years ago, under the town, along with the exterior painting. The Proctor Stokes family gave money to repaint the exterior.
The roof was done with CPC money.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then
Last 4 years.
So why would you be asking for a new roof in your plan?
I don't believe we're asking for a new roof at all.
The only thing that
We're
we have
extremely specific about what we're asking for.
I want to make sure I don't have,
And remediation, nothing to do with.
okay.
I thought we gave Carl's estimate.
Yeah, we did, and it specifically shows it in our estimates. I don't have the table.
And you, Carl, who?
Carl Mercier, Moroy
Oh,
Construction.
the construction.
Yeah,
Okay,
they do all.
okay,
of,
okay. I didn't know him by.
Work in there.
Okay.
They do this ridiculous amount of preservation, but that's,
Yeah, so then we can assume that the estimation here for the roof, the brand new roof is going to be
What are you looking at there?
a unit cost from the construction. He's certainly.
Yes.
$10,500. So my question is, a roof that's new, why would you remediate it for asbestos?
Is that for the piece of the roof when you raise the thing?
right, exactly, it's just.
I thought I knew what you meant, but it ain't what it says.
Yeah, look at this right here.
I think it's the part where they're changing the access where the lift is going to go.
But no, that's not it. You say specifically,
Where you're raising.
under the ACM, and what's the acronym ACM for those of us who know? Pam? ACM? ACM.
That's asbestos, that's asbestos testing.
I get it. What is ACM?
Unfortunately, I don't have any.
I mean, this is important to know.
To look it up, I'm really sorry.
Okay. So thus far, we're looking at all this to be removed and abated.
Correct. Roof shingles it's not replacing the roof. We have some asbestos shingles on here. That's specifically for the asbestos shingles to come off.
It's a new roof, though.
No, there's some stuff on there. There's stuff underneath everything.
Okay, you're gonna
So
really have
it's
to.
asbestos remediation. is what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Why would the town put a new roof on with asbestos in it? That's what I'm trying to,
basically.
because they wouldn't in the past 5 years.
You can put it right on top of something.
You can have 2 layers of roofing on
You
at the
could
same
have,
time.
yeah, once it hits 3, you can't put it right.
I'm pretty sure they stripped it, but we think we need to get a clarification on that.
Then you would have had to have asbestos costs from the piece. I think we're specifically talking, and anyway, continue.
That's okay. Let's,
ACM is asbestos containing materials.
Thank you.
okay, there we go. I'll put that down there.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, because we have a wider public here that's,
Thank you, Ann.
okay, that makes sense.
It is, well, I know also, there is one area where we're gonna be changing the trusses at the rear of the building, which were all burned, and we will have to remove that area of the roof. So that would be on the oldest part of the building.
It's in the 1830s.
Right, and so that section,
We've dug into that one before, so that's not what I'm so concerned about. Okay. So for the $292 and 168, sorry. Almost $300,000. It's all for abatement.
there should be ADA information too on here.
But is that not an additional? This is a total and that's a total. We have 2 big asks here.
Just a timeout here a second. It's now 20 minutes of 6.
This is the ADA stuff, and this.
Just for the sake of people who are still waiting in line here, are we going to be doing other issues after this one? This seems like a fairly complicated process.
I think we can probably get.
We take 20 minutes.
Linda said
That's
she can
all
do
I know.
it
Couple
fast.
Pardon?
Linda said she can do it fast.
We've debated this for a long time. The building really, it's great that it's going to stand as an institution. So probably the largest elephant in the room was that the the Waldorf School as an entity, you don't own the building yet.
Yeah.
And will the transfer of ownership be accomplished before we have our town meeting?
Really hoping that it will.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think we're very much in favor of this, but it's just the question, number one, of the priority of these two giant projects, and number two, if you're not the owner of record, I'm not sure.
You have to be co-signed with the owner of record.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
A letter
Yes.
yes.
stating willingness to do that.
You could also have a subjectivity endorsement that it would be subject to X, Y, and Z.
Well, yeah.
You know, our participation.
I think it's a legal matter, first of all. But at the same time, we've already had one big project at the building fall through. So I think before we would commit this kind of money, preservation, which are really hard to come by, we have to be absolutely sure it's right for the piece of the project and that we can get the endorsement of the voters.
Yeah.
What are you saying that fell through?
The Rockwell Museum is going to take over the building.
Oh,
As
okay.
a.
And we
facility
gave money
for
in.
Right.
A collection of,
But that was never an application here.
well, they would have applied to us.
They would have, but they never did, yeah.
Yeah, but we had money in hand for reuse of the building, which we eventually had to give back to the town.
Right.
And I don't know which one Linda's referring to, but we've been to this party before.
So I think that those are the main questions. And maybe anyone else?
So the application needs to be supported by the current owner, which we discussed, because we can't.
We have a letter.
Right.
From this church.
Right, the church has sent us a letter, but it still doesn't pin this down to timing. So.
Well, in any case, I sure want a motion on the table that we support this effort wholeheartedly to the extent that we can, you know, given whatever the legalities are and whatever the funds available are.
It seems to me that in terms of being timely issues and big issues, there are two big ones.
Yeah.
One is the Swan property and the other is this one.
Yeah.
And this is,
We need to get it off the town books.
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is pertinent at all,
Agreed.
I just wanted to say, we discussed this because we were speaking to the church. They want this deal to happen. This helps them out, helps us out, helps a lot, the whole town out, really. So, but we said, geez, we can't go to the CPC for funds because we haven't done the deal yet, sign any papers to buy the building. Talk to Michael Canales about that. You know, if we're not owners of the building, can we even apply? And he said, you know, you can apply and with the church's permission and support. And if money is allocated for that, great, it'll be there for you. If the deal doesn't go through, then it's just not.
Okay, but Sally,
That's what
in
got-
position where now it's in the historic preservation.
Yeah. Talking to the church about what they're going to, how they're going to structure the deal to sell us the property, because that's what we really need them to do in order for us to raise the rest of the money. Big chunk of money raised, and we're getting there. But in order for us to raise the rest of the money and also be in a position to, if we had to borrow the last 800,000 or borrow ahead of a construction loan ahead of funds coming in, that we would be, as owners of the building, in a position to do that. So the church knows that. It is now, you know, they're working on their process with their many levels to come back with a number for us that we can agree on and so that we can move forward. So that's how we got here. The timing was not perfect, but we're trying to put all the pieces together to push the whole process along.
Okay, but you see, we have the same problem as we did with the theater festival. What's first?
Yeah, you don't.
You've given us two big projects here, each about 300,000, and you're asking for 100.
The first would be, with testing. We have to do asbestos testing, and we're already signed up to do that and have signed for it. Then the material will have to go out after he does his research, holes, all things like that, and come back with what items have asbestos. And that would be the first thing we would do, is to remove those hazardous items so people don't have to, we don't even want construction workers working in the building.
No, I understand
with
that.
hazardous materials. And what happens when people are in buildings and you have stuff like that, they sometimes break the seal, and then asbestos, and everything kind of gets it.
I'm struggling with, and I can't find the town council's comments on this.
Here.
Because the town.
Linda, here.
Number the page, so.
No, I have the page open to it, sweetie, right there.
Okay, let me just have a quick look.
But give it back to me. That's valuable.
I have 2 copies, but unnumbered.
All right.
Okay. So, anti-aid, okay, we've heard that before, but where is? Well, it's interesting because they have a lot to say about anti-aid, but not as much about preservation.
Yeah, but they're tilting towards it has to be preservation.
So we have 2 different things, remediate and restore. And is remediate a word in our application right now? Because I want to make sure it matches up with the state.
Yeah, really.
That's remediation.
Oh, God.
Really?
Town council's main concern was whether the renovations would go beyond the scope of merely restoring historical features of the property, and also the part about the remediate, restore, preserve, and bring into ADA compliance. So there are sort of 2 possible scenarios here. I'm not sure that they're incompatible, although from what I read, the current project does not include any historic restoration. It's just remediating, restoring, and preserving the building.
Just for our proposal here.
Right,
There will be a lot.
Right, yeah. For our purposes, it's preserving the building for use. I mean, and under any circumstances, it can't be used with lead paint and asbestos in it.
Correct, yes.
So, and that would come under, I don't know whether legally it comes under ADA, but nobody can go into the building if it's got those.
I don't even understand what bucket it comes out of.
Well,
None of this is historic preservation.
Okay, it's a historic building. It's
Yeah,
a national register.
Absolutely, no question about
Here
that.
we are with, this is not our first go-around with Proctor Hall. And just the clarity of what the CPA money can be used for. So ADA is something you can ask for. But they have these definitions, which are right at the beginning of their long diatribe with us. And it's on the website of the CPA too. So I think you have to stick it in your pocket here.
Yeah.
And then it will go. They have a definition for rehabilitation.
Careful.
They have the usual historic resources and yet secretary standards. But and of course, they're asking the historical commission to undertake oversight to ensure compliance with the standards. So I think, anyone have a strong feeling, but ADA, which is an allowable, I mean, should we push that forward a little more?
This seems like the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have that separated out, that money? as to what the estimate would be for the ADA as opposed to the
We have it
remediation?
specifically in the.
It's in the, you know,
Yeah.
those two parts.
Well, the
That's-
council closes her comments with saying that I have significant concerns that this project would violate the anti-aid amendment unless a strong public benefit is identified. And it seems to me that the Waldorf School has made ample.
Yes, I agree.
It's a
Reasons
public, it's a
that-
public space and it would be used by the public.
And they've made it available and they've said exactly what days and hours it's available. You can't do more
It's
than
being
that.
designed around for that purpose right now, where the classroom portion of the building and the upstairs where there's a big
That part,
assembly room that will be for community use, is accessible without.
There also is a community kitchen, which, you know, we're doing as part of this project. It's not, we're not asking anybody for you for it, but you know, I've lived in this town a long time. It's wonderful to know that publicly, I mean, somebody got a party there. I mean, it's just wonderful. I mean, Karen Williams recently was telling me, yeah, let's go play bingo on the second floor in the girls' sport club. How long has it been since we had liveliness here?
The kitchen used to be the conversation office.
Yeah.
So, you know.
But the plans in the stove.
So what can we
Linda,
do
what do you
to
advise?
move this forward now?
Because you have people waiting.
Advise us.
Yeah, so
Let's put forward something to promote the ADA
Yes.
pieces and see if, and the money that you match for the rest of this, use that money for the testing. So the testing's established, not using.
The testing is actually only $4,500.
But I'm just saying, you understand, when we put matches to matches, the CPA doesn't allow us to give you money for certain things. And so it would be better not just to walk away from that and keep on the table the ADA approval.
Good.
Okay.
Turn that into a motion.
Turn that into a motion.
Right, we'll all
Okay, so if we
support you.
suppose we go to the construction document. Does
Schematic or not.
the reconfiguration of the entry,
Okay, I want to call timeout here. It's almost 6. Are we going to keep people waiting, or are we going to defer the other items till next week?
Well, right now, we're going to try and get through this and we'll see what we've got. There may be some that we can just bang out, and if we can do that, we'll do that, because we're going to have to
But this
come
could
back.
take another 20 minutes, the way we're going here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
well, I think, do we have some consensus here that the second piece is probably stronger to
Yes, the
Yes.
get funding? because-
ADA.
So what are you including in ADA? The reconfiguration of the entrance and the elevator?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the lift, we have, yep, here's the elevator.
By the way, it's a lift, not an elevator, right?
It's a lift, yes.
Right.
Yeah. It will have a shaft around it. It's a lula, which is a limited use elevator for, you can use it in a building of this size in only 2 floors.
Okay, the lift is within the building.
It has to go up basically a few steps to get to the first floor.
Okay.
Okay? Then it will go another stop up to the second floor.
Okay, so if there's any question from the floor and the public, this isn't a ramped entrance where the elevator is. The access,
That grade.
Is there a ramp where the elevator is?
It's
No,
that grade.
there's a
Roll
ramp
by
at
there.
the, we're gonna keep the existing ramp at the rear of the building.
Got it. And you're not adding a
Fix the
ramp?
railing and everything over there, which is in horrible
Oh,
disrepair.
that's,
the only, okay, so the back ramp we know is a horse show, but this, you know, there's a lot of subtle ramping that can be done to that level of the,
It would be, okay, you're.
but my point is, if we get into a wrangle with the Secretary of the Interior standards issue, you're changing the door. The door's coming down to meet that ramp.
I understand that, but.
So we might run into a snag despite our agreement that this is a good idea to go with the ADA side of it. So we went through it with the church, so.
What's your recommendation, Liz?
Yeah.
Still need the lift on the inside, so it would be more expensive, so.
I think that for the sake of getting this going, if we agree that the ADA pieces can be adjusted to be certain, to be with the Secretary's standards, I think that's the thing we can do.
Subject to ownership, what Jay said, or
I
just,
think the ownership piece has to be stated somehow.
well, that's what I'm asking.
Where do we get, do we have to go to the American Disabilities Act to get
Well, I think if we.
clarification? Or
If we look again, we're going to have to, I can't do it from here, but we look at the community preservation site.
Yeah.
And those allowable uses of those funds.
That's
and
right.
they mesh with historic preservation, then you have the package.
Yep.
So I think this is a win. Let's walk away from the part that's questionable right now. And the ownership issue, frankly, the town council didn't bring that up. So at this point, it was just the committee.
So your motion is move to,
How much?
yeah, move to allow,
If the entire amount you ask for here at 185,
yeah,
616 could be put towards, say, page 2 of this estimate. Did that make sense? It only goes to 264, by the way. I mean, you're talking demolition here and a lot of stuff. That total 264,000.
I'm sorry, David.
The second page of your estimates is for 264,000. And it's specific to the ADA. So we're finding a common ground on that and having a problem with some of the other. So can we do that?
are you
What's your
suggesting the total
recommendation?
amount?
264,
Is that the total?
that's the total for the ADA.
So you're recommending to fund the total of the ADA, not a percentage?
They're asking for 185.
Right, so you don't, we're not going to fund more than what they're asking for, is my point.
Okay, but again, if you're going to match, if we go for what you've asked for, can you match that from your other? And you don't have a specified amount.
What I had done, the form had it broken out by year on the front of the application.
Right.
So I had done, because we came in asking for both ADA and remediation, is I had added the two totals together and asked for that over 3 years. That's where that 125,000 number comes in.
Right, so that's not the number.
A year for 3 years.
Well, okay, I don't have my calc, but if we, can you manage from the matching funds to meet that 185 to get this first piece?
Get the 264.
What is the question?
If you need 264 for the ADA, and we recommend the 185, if you've got the funding to do the balance.
Yes, the answer is yes.
So we want to direct the funding,
To
our
yeah.
funding for the
Only ADA,
resolution.
not the whole mishmash.
All right.
Who's got that mute thing not going on, but it's so.
Is it Ann? Ann, is that
Somebody needs to
you?
mute, please. We're
I am muted.
Laura, mute.
Okay,
All right,
let's
so,
get this on.
all right, so do I have a motion to allocate the, or to recommend to town meeting the $185,616.17 toward the ADA compliance component of this project? Okay.
All right, so moved and seconded between Linda and Gary.
All right. Carol,
Yes, ma'am.
Tom,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Harry, Ann.
Yes.
Okay.
So what do we have?
And Patrick is recused.
Right.
He's abstained.
He has to abstain.
Yes, absolutely.
Are we going to do the rest
So
of
now
these?
we are at 6 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm sorry for anybody who's had to sit here through this whole thing. Do you think we can whip through a couple of the small pieces?
Sally, I have to go,
Okay.
but I
Any-
I had till 6.
Okay, any input on anything here?
I think we should do our
You want
meet
to do the
again.
next meeting on the
I
6th?
honest to God would love to if you don't think that's.
And next Monday's the next one. Or
The
2,
6th,
Next Monday is what?
the next meeting.
Yes.
the 6th.
Honestly, we could, there's some of these, you know,
I think
we have Concom, Friends of Gold Meadows. There's a bunch of really easy ones on here.
I thought.
Then we have LHA, which I think all the ones that are left are really very simple. You know,
Yeah, I
they're
think
mostly
so.
low dollar. I mean, let's make 15 more minutes. People have been sitting here for 2 hours. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, how about just finishing off the other historic preservations first?
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah.
All
So
right, so what are the fastest ones? Let's
We've
do
got
them.
Chesterwood, we've got the archives. But the only one that we had any controversy over was the library request for the digitized
That's right.
microfilm.
Okay, so
Town
Let's handle
council
the
said
ones where
no.
we have people
let's
waiting
do Chesterwood
in the room.
next,
Yes, we do.
and just keep this in order.
I'm here from the library. My name is Susie Harden.
Okay. All right, wait a minute, we're changing. Now we're doing the library? Okay, let me get that application up, please.
Sorry.
Oh, I guess I would ask if you could, if I could politely ask if you would consider hearing Laurel Hill. Pat has been dealing with a lot of stuff lately, and I think it would be awfully nice to accommodate her.
I actually agree. She's had some health issues.
Yes. We all have issues.
We all have issues.
We have 2 libraries.
Yes, there are 2 for
Yeah.
the library. And the other
Right.
one is Chesterwood. Those are
Yeah,
the remaining
30.
historic. So Laurel Hill is open space.
Yes. Mary Flynn Trail.
Great.
Wasn't there some
Which is-
problem with that? What was the problem?
It has to be under recreation.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
That was what they
Has
said.
to put it back.
That was the only comment from town council was that it would have to go under recreation.
And how
So,
much is
Mary
it?
Flynn is a huge asset to the town. That trail is used by everybody. It's a wonderful trail. It's falling down. It needs to be repaired and made safe for people. It's ADA compliant. You know, it has that as a component for visitors. It's great for people who are older who just want to walk along the river. It's a really good thing.
How much is it?
70,000.
but the application says 33,000 and that CPC is requesting 20.
Why do I have that wrong?
Yeah, it's only 20,000. I make a motion, we approve it at 20.
I second it.
What's that, Laurel Hill?
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick? Who seconds?
I did.
I thought Jay did.
Jay
Jay
did?
did.
Jay
Yeah,
did?
Jay seconded
You
it.
get,
I
you get to
did,
be the
but
second
We can give it to Jay.
this time.
Let Carol do it.
No.
I don't want her to be a pain.
No, I say Jay does it. I, Carol.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Patrick.
Aye.
Linda? Ann?
Hi.
Okay,
Yay.
Laurel Hill.
Go get supper.
Thank you, everyone. And Jay, I want your second because you're on finance.
While we're at it, I make a motion, we approve Friends of Gold Meadow for $11,916.25.
Second.
All right.
Carol,
Aye, Carol.
Tom,
This is Gold Meadows.
Right. Yes.
Patrick,
Yeah, I, Patrick.
Jay, Linda,
All right.
Ann.
Aye.
Okay,
And the Concom foot property, I make a motion, we approve that at $5,200.
The what?
Town of Stockbridge Concom foot property.
I think it's a great project, but I would specifically request that the plant material not be invasive.
no, it has to
Whatever
be.
I
they.
think Concom's going to put it in basement.
Yeah.
Concom's doing it.
Well, those are mistakes that we made in the past with conservation situations, so I always bring
No,
it up.
it is definitely going to be
In
native,
New Jersey in this.
native,
So Linda seconded it.
Carol,
Aye, Carol.
Tom,
Which one is this one?
This is the Concom's, Town of Stockbridge Concom foot property.
Sanctuary by
Yes.
the dump.
Patrick,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
me, yes, okay.
All right. I make a motion, we approve the Stockbridge Library and Archives $3,875 request.
Is that the first part?
That's the one that
The daguerreotype.
council said good.
Yeah, that's the first one. That's the daguerreotypes, I think.
Second,
Let's see.
Aye, Carol.
Yes.
Pretty fast,
Yes.
Jay,
yeah. Okay, which one is this?
daguerreotype,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
okay. All right, now the second piece of the second piece was, town council did not feel that that was something was allowable
Oh, I
under the
know.
CPA.
Silly.
However,
What they're
historic
arguing,
preservation said that they did. So
Yeah.
the question is,
Here's how we went with this.
okay, what they're objecting, what the town council is objecting to is that microfilming something is
Oh.
preserved.
I understand that part, but I want you to pay attention to the CPA because we Googled CPA, organization, search, and digitize. There are numerous digital projects that have been approved. And we felt there was no reason not to approve it. Because then there'll be another copy of these records available in the local. So I don't care.
So
available.
I'm going to make a motion, we approve it pending no way for town council to figure out how we do it.
I don't think you asked town council.
Yeah,
They've
that's
told
what I say.
All right.
They make a recommendation, we
Done this before.
ignore the
So I make a motion, we approve 5,600 for the Stockbridge Library, Museum and Archives.
second.
I'll second it.
Aye,
Okay,
Carol.
Carol, Tom,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
okay.
And my next motion is I make a motion, we approve 42,000 for the most important stones in the town, cemetery stones in the town for the Abigail and John Sargent headstones.
Second.
We thought that this is an excellent project and we'd like Abigail to get some credit in there too. But John
Said that was good.
Yeah, but she was widowed and remarried. I'm not, why does it still say Abigail Sargent?
It's all right. You know, she has a stone somewhere else for all in life. But
It's a stone.
thank you, is that, the excavation and the work they're going to do is going to be matched somehow. Because nothing is sure. They're sure exactly for what they're at right now. I felt very strongly, because the cemetery has its own fund, that after they do this initial excavation, if they need more money, they should take it from the cemetery funds, because they'll know how much it's going to cost them. But we should get them going. Their first priority in the cemetery right now.
So is that a
All right, so
motion?
42.
Made a motion.
For the
42,000.
cemetery commission to restore and conserve the sergeant's tomb slabs. Patrick made the motion, Carol seconded. Carol,
Aye, Carol.
Tom,
Yes.
Yes.
Patrick, Jay,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Ann. Okay, all right.
And then
That's 42,000.
that was 42,000. And then finally, I make a motion, we approve the SBA request for 11,500 for Bullard Woods.
What is?
SBA request for $11,500 for Bullard Woods.
Oh.
I have some questions about that request.
A couple of questions I thought we had.
And for one thing, I think there are some wonderful, magnificent heritage trees there, but I don't think they need to be I think part of the wonder of it is they're in the wild, and to have trails go right up to them with a plaque describing them makes it seem like a theme park. And to me, it takes away from the natural wonder of the Bullard Woods.
I would comment that if there's a recognition of the trees, a map in the parking lot, the number,
Yeah.
and like you a pegboard as a child, you're looking down on this, and the trees are identified right there. And it's a hide and go seek thing. I don't like numbers and signs on but these sites, those things disappear. The parking lot, the kiosk where people can find out what they're going to do that day.
So, I'd like to defer until next, when we meet on this one.
This is the last one. Do you really not want to spend 5 minutes talking about it and getting them all voted on?
Are you saying we don't have to meet next week?
Yeah, we
This is the-
have to meet next week.
We will have to
You
meet
still haven't
anyway.
done some, there's a couple of others here that are not.
Yeah, we still have to meet on the land trust, which we tabled.
No, we didn't table the land trust.
Yeah, well,
It was the housing stuff.
We still have to do Chesterwood.
Chesterwood's
Yeah,
not
we didn't do
done,
Chesterwood.
and they're actually, let me look at my list.
I mean, I guess we could hold on these so nobody's here for them.
Cemetery.
Okay. Shall we save Chesterwood and the Bullard Woods?
Yeah.
For the
Put it in perspective, just before we adjourn, we spent approximately 50, 70, 85, 270, 274, 280, 322, 622, 626, no, 628, 640. We spent about approximately $660,000, which is approximately $230,000 above our annual allotment and about half of our windfall that Erica's genius found with Ray and others. And so I just want to kind of we still have 4 big ones that we're going to look at.
I know, did you scoop
So,
up Carol's thing?
and I do think we should leave some in undesignated because for the future,
It's red line.
We're required to put away 10% of what we have.
we've already done that. Well
Are
beyond.
hers are these documents, yes, but they're stapled and they have a
Have,
thing on it.
theoretically, we have $900,000 that we can spend. I'm not comfortable with spending all of that, but
That's right. That's my point.
This is yours.
We may want to sharpen our pencils just a tiny bit once we see what the full set on funding is. But, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Chesterwood, we're going to put off.
There are no problems with this. It's a small amount, I would say. We could just do it now.
For Chesterwood,
Yeah.
I move that we move. I really,
you're done.
I'm getting
I'm
tired.
done, yeah.
I'm not going to make sense anymore.
Second?
So did we decide on this BA? No, we're going to think about that.
right.
Okay.
Did we vote on the Foot property? The
Yes.
5,200?
You supported it.
Yeah, you
Okay,
did.
I don't remember.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So we'll meet on the 6th, at 4:00, and we'll finish up.
Excellent.
And hopefully we'll have some more information on the,
Even have a copy of the lawyer's comment.
we'll have more information on the Fenn property.
That chair, she lost it.
Something more concrete.
Wait a minute.
We've got.
Will you check your bag? Yeah, check your bag, because I literally do not have it.
I know, you didn't even move out of the chair and you lost it.
What'd she do?
Strange.
Good night.
Good
Night,
night, Ann.
Ann.
Thank you.
Aye.
We've got to adjourn.
And Sally, so since, are we adjourned? I just made a motion. We have a motion to adjourn. Can we adjourn?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're done.
Yep.